Hello and welcome to the GraphQL tutorial. This tutorial will help you understand how API queries in GraphQL works. In previous video we did some easy queries, but now we're gonna do some more advanced ones. I guarantee you that you will be amazed with the ease of creating really professional GraphQL queries and the possibilities of it. So without further ado, let's get started. So the first thing that we skipped in the previous video were payments. We did a lot of cool stuff with properties from our real estate manager, but we decided to focus on payments in the future. So now it's the time. We already have the database model of it and see the data. So now we need to configure our API to be able to return also payments. I think the best approach is to start from the lowest layer, from the database repository. We need to add payment repository. So create a new class inside data access project and inside repositories folder. Also, we need to create an interface for this repository called iPaymentRepository. We can start already with two methods. First one will return IEnumerable of payment and will be called getAllForProperty. We're gonna use payments only with properties when client wants to get payments for certain property. So as a parameter, we're gonna add ID of property for which we're gonna fetch payments. The second method will be useful when you want to limit the number of results. So we can create a method with the same return type and the same name, but with one more parameter. This parameter will be called last amount because we will give client possibility to select how many last payments he wants to get. Okay, so here we've got interface completed. Let's jump to the implementation. First thing that we need to do is inherit in payment repository from the interface that we just created. Now, using help of Visual Studio, we can automatically implement missing methods. Okay, we need to add DBContext to get data from the database and here inject it into constructor. So starting with the first query, it will be an easy one. We just need to return all payments where property ID is equal to given property ID in function parameter. But here something is missing. Yeah, we haven't added the navigation property in the payment model. Let's quickly add it. And also we can add property ID as integer to navigate directly into it. And now we can finish the query, where property ID is equal to the property ID from method parameter. We will need also to create new migration and update database. So open package manager console, select real estate manager.database project and type add migration with the name, let's say, payment navigation property. Yeah, and it shows that we want to add property ID into payments table. That's exactly what we want to do. Okay, so now only update database, wait a moment, and we got it. Let's jump back to our repository. The second method will be more advanced. The beginning is the same, but we need to order them descending by date created. So we're gonna have the collection starting from the newest ones. And then take as many as the client wants, as the parameter last amount is. Yeah, and that's it. we can now use our repository functions. Now we need to take care of GraphQL types. We need to add new one. I think that it will be better if we group the types in separate folders, like payment and property folder. Let's do this. The query that we have already created can be moved into property folder. Okay, inside payment folder, we can create new type, because we want to describe our entity. We want to give users possibility to fetch it from database. I will call it payment type to be consistent with already created property type. This class needs to inherit from object graph type with generic parameter payment. Inside the class, inside constructor, we can use field method and assign each field, starting with the ID, value, date created, date overdue of the payment, and last, the check if it was paid. Okay, that's it here. We can now update property type. What's important is that we won't allow users to fetch payments without properties. That's because payment as a separate entity doesn't make any sense. We wouldn't know what we have paid for. If it's okay that we have paid, too much problems. So I decided to only fetch them with properties. So the whole logic will be inside property type. It will be another field method call, but now we need to set the generic parameter for this method to list graph type. That's because GraphQL will not recognize standard C# list or IEnumerable. Okay, now we need to add name to the collection. It's natural that we need to call it payments. So now, when calling the property query, we'll be able to call for payments inside of it. Okay, the second argument needs to be a named argument, and it is called resolve. It will return getAllForProperty method from payment repository. In order to use this repository, we need to add it as constructor parameter. Okay, so here we'll return the first version of this method, only with the ID of property. It can be accessed through the context.source object. Inside of it, we got the ID. Last thing that needs to be done is to register the iPayment repository. We can do it in the startup class inside configure services method. We can add it here exactly the same as property repository. And here also add as a singleton the payment type. So now we can run our application and check if the payments are working. Standard run with AS Express and go to /GraphQL page. Okay, we can add to this query the payments. And let's say that you want to return the ID and value of the payment. Yeah, it's working. So now we have the properties connected with payments. It wasn't so hard in reality. Yeah, so after we got that, we should think about a better feature. What if the list of payments will grow and grow? In a bigger period of time, the collection will be really huge. We should give the possibility to get only, for example, last 5 or last 3 payments. Even the last one sometimes might be useful. And here, the second method from payment repository comes into play. We can go back to the property type class and add some more logic. First, what I want to do is to add here curly braces to be able to add more than just one line. We should give the user possibility to declare how many last payments he wants to get. He will pass it as argument, so first we need to get the information from this argument. It can be achieved by parsing the quote last argument to integer with the getArgument method. And here we'll do a check if user provided this argument. And if he did, we'll use the second method from repository with two arguments. The second argument will be the last items filter. Otherwise, we'll use the standard one. Of course, we need to give GraphQL information that we allow using the extra argument called last. And we can achieve it by specifying the arguments parameter. It can be assigned to a new query arguments object with one query argument of integer graph type called last. Let's try it. We can test now if everything is working. Yeah, the old query still is okay, so maybe add to it the date created to each payment, so we will see if we are really taking last payments. Okay, so here, near the payment object, we can put inside the braces or argument. I will try with last two. Yeah, we got it. It really works as it should. That's very cool feature. Let me try with one. Okay, here we've got it. So now we are able to return a certain amount of last payments. That's really cool what we have achieved during this video. We've learned a lot and discovered how big possibilities we have when using GraphQL. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you like this video, don't hesitate to subscribe to be up to date with newest content.